Hello, everyone. My name is Joshua Gilliland, and with me, as always, is Jessica Mederson. Together, we form the Legal Geeks. And today, we got to position it so we can do the rings that hit each other, and we'll do that in the boxes for...
Powers unite. I don't want to be the water, though. I want to be the eagle.
That's cool. I mean, we could get Green Lantern rings, too, but now that we've gone full-on geek, that should scare everyone senseless. Let's talk about... Jessica, let's talk about why are we here today?
We are here today. It's actually a bittersweet moment. We're here today to talk about pets in science fiction, pet law, and the reason we're doing this is because I'm doing it in memory of my darling Tiga, my beloved dog that I lost last week after almost 14 years together.
Very sorry for your loss. Just look at those eyes. What a sweetheart.
She was a sweetie. We rescued her from the streets of South Dallas. Oh, she was such a mess when we got her, and she was the most devoted and wonderful and sweet and smart pet, and I miss her very much. But before I started crying, I thought that, well, I would take this moment to honor her, my darling little dog, who probably, if she'd been a person, I always said she would have been a boxer or a Catholic nun, I think. I don't think she would have been a geek. She would have been a good lawyer. She was part pit bull. But anyway, yes, so this is to remember her, my sweetie, and to talk about other pets that people have had in science fiction, and also in some superhero comic book type things too. So.
Very well, and very sorry for the loss of Tika. Let's talk about science fiction and pets. Who is your favorite pet in science fiction?
Hands down, no question about it, it's Willa from the John Carter Mars series. Willa is basically the Martian equivalent of a dog, although he's actually got 6 legs and is mammoth and green and vicious mouth and everything. But Willa is, again, actually kind of like Tiga, can appear very fierce and is very protective, but is actually incredibly sweet and loyal and loving. And Willa was one of the animals kept by the Green Men of Mars and Tartarchus' tribe. And the Green Men of Mars were actually pretty mean to these Martian dogs, basically. But John Carter actually befriended Willa and was gentle and treated Willa kindly. And so in return, Willa rescued John Carter more times from more near-death moments, and there were often times where it seemed like Willa should have died, and in fact once it actually did appear that Willa died, but luckily the green people of Mars also had remarkable healing medicines and powers, and so Willa always came back from the brink. But Willa was fantastic, and if I could ever talk my kids into it, I would get a big dog and name it Willa, because I love Willa. How about you? Do you have a favorite pet from sci-fi?
Well, it's hard not to like a Tribble because they're cute, furry, and snuggly, and I just happen to have one here. That'd be a great food source. I mean, as we're dealing with sequester issues right now and how to feed people, one of these little babies in elementary school, we'd be taken care of. No more pink slime. We'd be totally fine.
Ew, that sounds gross, but okay.
You gotta think big picture. I'm sure Tribble steaks would be very, very tasty, and there would be a surplus of them. But if we are gonna geek out and think about science fiction pets, I'll go with K9 from Doctor Who, because when you think about it, what male wouldn't want a robot dog that talked to you and had a laser?
Oh,
so it can do.
That is cool.
It could help you with your math homework, it could be the loyal pal, and it could shoot down a demon flying around. So when you think about it, pound for pound, robot dog with laser. It's kind of hard not... It's freaking laser. I mean, so you got to think big picture here. So I'm going to go with K9, even though there are other good contenders in there, but I think K9 is a little more my speed, so I'll go with that.
All right, that's a good one.
Jessica.
Go ahead.
So what are some of the other examples of pets in science fiction?
Well, it's funny because there aren't that many. I don't know. There are lots of robots in the future. I guess, in the future, I'm thinking like in the Star Wars world, of course, there's Crumb that was kind of like Jabba's pet or maybe the court jester. I mean, I think in the future they tend to imbue all the alien creatures and all the different kinds of things with, more intelligence than I guess we credit pets with. So they're not really pets as opposed to just another human life form. So like in the Star Wars world, for example, I mean, you certainly couldn't call Chewbacca a pet. I mean, even though he does seem like big, lovable kind of dog, but he's clearly an evolved being who can fly planes or rocket ships, I guess. So it's funny, you don't see a lot of references. Two that I like are Robert Heinlein does like to work in some kind of unusual pets instead of just doing the dog thing too. There's a snake in A Stranger in a Strange Land that the woman who owns the pet snake is actually like has a psychic ability to communicate with the snake, which is pretty handy. They actually like the snake babysitting babies. I'm like, it actually works pretty well. I was like, wow, if I were psychic with a snake and had babies, that'd be handy. There's even The Cat Who Walks Through Walls by Robert Heinlein. So like the whole book is, named after a cat. So that's pretty cool. How about you? Can you think of any others?
Well, Clash of the Titans, there's a Bubo, the mechanical owl. And I don't know why I'm leaning towards robots. So, there's one right there. And let's see now, I believe there's the Targs in Star Trek, which would also be, handy little pets as well. And by handy, they're kind of ferocious. So there's that side of it. So, but no, there's lots of, it's interesting. You don't see a lot of pets. I mean, in the original Battlestar Galactica, you had Boxy, the mechanical Daggett after, the dog was killed in the fall of Caprica. So, they played with that as well. But, you do see dogs and robot versions of dogs.
It does seem to be
and that's excluding all the Lassies and all the Benji movies out there. So, and who can forget the end scene of Old Yeller, which if we ever really wanted to get a confession out of a terrorist, just make them keep watching the end of that until they finally snap. So that would be that'd be one of my ways of doing an enhanced interrogation. They just keep watching Old Yeller until they submit.
All right, there you go. That's a handy tip.
Yeah, just in case, if you have to interrogate someone this weekend, there's your option. So
all right, that's a good idea.
So let's talk about, since we are lawyers and we do advise people on, thinking ahead, and one of those things is what happens when you die and making sure that a loved one is taken care of. What do you do, how are pets taken care of post your death?
It is a tricky issue, especially if you're a person who tends to have pets like a parrot that can easily, unless you get a parrot as a child, there's a good chance the parrot's going to outlive you, certain turtles, things like that. I had set up in a will at one point, I had a caretaker identified for Tiga if something were to happen and Tiga was to outlive us. I had a friend who agreed to take Tiga, and I set aside money to give to the caretaker. So I'm not actually bequeathing the money directly to the dog, obviously, because states still generally view pets as property. But I'm in my will providing for the dog by identifying a caretaker and identifying funds. Most states, however, do allow you to actually set up a trust for the dog. Again, you need to identify somebody to run the trust. You still need to identify someone, to take care of the dog and basically an executor. But you can actually set up trust. This, you see this every once in a while pops up in the news where some millionaire, instead of leaving any money to their kids or grandkids or, even the maid is like, forget it. I'm leaving all my money to my pet, Benji. The most famous one, I think, was Leona Helmsley. She left $12 million to her dog, Trouble. She actually cut out a couple family members to do that. And the court actually ended up reducing the award to the dog's trust to $2 million because the caretaker was like, I really can't spend more than $100,000 a year on this dog. No matter how much I try. At some point, there's only so much you can spend on a dog. So the trust was actually reduced to $2 million.
I mean, the personal trainer, the handmade kibble,
the manicure,
the massage, wow. So was that Cypress that they did, and to reduce the award, or was it some other doctrine?
Oh, I don't know. Now you're going beyond what I had researched on that. I'm not sure. So.
Oops, sorry. I didn't mean to throw a curveball with that since we're dealing.
They make me look bad.
Strategery. So let's talk about What happens if someone hurts your beloved pet?
Well, the obvious answer is, of course, again, we mentioned before that they're property. So that would be property destruction. So there are, various civil and criminal charges that you can make for that. There is also, however, actual animal abuse you can be charged with. Again, there was a notorious case probably more than a few years ago now where there was a case of road rage in California. A woman tapped the car in front of her, and the guy got out in a rage, came to her window. She rolls down her window to try and apologize. Her dog had been sitting over here, jumps onto her lap, either to protect her or because the dog's scared. And the man, and this is just awful, the man grabs the dog and throws it onto the freeway into oncoming traffic, and the dog gets run over. The woman can't stop it. Dog dies. Very sad. That guy was charged with animal abuse. So you can, and that would have carried a criminal sentence. There's also some courts, like the Washington Court of Appeals, actually recognized a few years ago. There was a case where some kids basically tortured a dog, and the animal ended up living, but then actually had to be put down because it was so severely injured. And the court actually said that, you know what, in those sort of cases where there's that malicious injury to a pet, the owner can sue for the intentional infliction of emotional distress. So that is a possible civil, remedy, again, in relation to or in addition to property destruction or criminal charges for animal abuse. So there are options there, obviously, if something, people, again, and, obviously I'll think about how people who are willing to hurt animals often are willing to do other horrendous things too. So maybe that's why more and more courts are allowing more claims, because they recognize these people need to be stopped early before they turn their venom on humans. So.
Well, that we also get angry when a pet or a dog is killed or tortured, or when that crosses a line, just because of the cruelty involved, and you see it raise passions because of that, and it's like, oh,
I mean, he knows he can never, people, I mean, again, the dog fighting was horrible, but there are arguably other football players who have done some pretty bad stuff, and they're more easily forgiven. People, just can't fathom just, senseless injuries to these innocent animals. So it does seem pretty crazy.
I can't stand them.
I know.
I mean, I don't like them. The fact the president called him after a game bothered me immensely, because it's
agree.
like, hey, you get a free pass for being a horrible human being. So that's my.
You're good at football.
And a lot of people feel that way. A lot of people find that very offensive. Yeah. And so, it's one of those things. And so it hurts, because we love our animals. We love our pets.
We do. Most of us do, and we should. And our pets are wonderful. And I miss my beloved pet Tiga. So I will, I feel it's amazing how much I think about her. But yes, pets are wonderful. And so people who can hurt pets, you really do have to question how they can do that.
Well, that you think about, we've had a bunch of dogs in the family, and the best was named Angie. And my grandfather was a dentist, and he was leaving, his practice was at Stanford, and it was a fall night, and walked out of the office after doing all the paperwork and everything. And it was raining, and there was this cardboard box outside the office door with this puppy in it that was this, just looked drowned. And being a dog guy from a farm in Iowa, he looked down, made eye contact, and took it home, because that's what. And my aunt named it after 5 or 6 of her girlfriends. I can never recite the dog's full name, but Angie. And she was super dog. She would, you play fetch for hours on end, and enjoyed swimming and diving off the diving board. And they did an experiment where they kept throwing the ball into the pool, and it was around throw 70 that the people got tired, and the dog was still going. And so and phenomenal, lovely dog. And so, and people remember, you get the Jimmy Stewart poem about his dog. And how much he loved, his dog named Bo, and what that dog meant to him. So again, it connects with people in a pretty serious, intimate way because of the unconditional love, which is why there's bodies of case law and trusts dealing with dogs and cats.
And other pets, yes. We have pet crows. Pet crows are awesome. I have my horse. I guess technically that's a pet. He was awesome. So you can have lots of different types of pets.
I have a clownfish, And while we don't exactly watch TV together, I don't have like the hamster ball for the clownfish to roll around in because that would be a cry for help.
Yeah.
It'd be weird, really weird. People don't do that. So they're not exactly the interactive, you
They're
know.
still a comforting
We don't
presence.
have. They're fun. I mean, like if we had miniature dolphins, that'd be kind of cool, you know, to swim around and you know. I mean, that'd be kind of neat. But anyway, we've talked a lot about pets, pet law, and that wonderful walk down memory lane. And so, Jessica, sorry for the loss of Tiga, and
She did it, and
with
I'm
that,
gonna cry, so we better say goodbye.
and with that, we'll do something less emotionally and less meaningful next time.